I think Saturday morning, and I was complaining to Siddharth that, you guys always call, all of you guys on Saturday morning and then expect that we'll start at 9 a.m. And so again, I hope all of you who are here, you're excited. Okay, and as Siddharth and mentioned that the agenda to today is going to be around NSX, but not my talk. So just a disclaimer, and so I think all of you, I asked Siddharth like who is going to be there in this event, and I learned that all of you are sysadmins, maybe network admins, and whatnot. But I think overall in the umbrella of sysadmins, right? So thank you, every one of you, because I think that's a community that I can relate with. I'll talk about that, part of my story, the way I started, whenever I started in 97. And there are companies like VMware and many other companies who are working day and night to create products for whom? All of you, isn't it? Okay, so I think what we are going to do today is, first of all, I will want a lot of response or interactions with you in between. I am expecting to include you also in this discussion. It's going to be, I know that they are calling it a keynote, but I think this will be more of a discussion. And there will be like bits and pieces where I will want your response also on a number of things. Because I don't want to say that, this is, whatever I'm saying is the only thing that one can say about the evolution of IT, because there is much more to it. And idea is not to completely cover it. Idea is to, just have some points where we can learn from each other. So I think for me today, I would like to learn as much as I can in this session by hearing a lot of things from you also. Okay, so with that, let's get started. And so as I mentioned, most of our time will be on your role, what this role has been, the way it has evolved, let's say in the last 30, 40 years or so. And then I'll also talk about some of the predictions that we have been hearing for the next 4 or 5 years and so on. And then we'll also, I'll also talk about very quickly a few of the things that VMware is working on. I mean, I know that almost all of you are VM user, so you already are working on one or more of the VMware products. But still, I think I'll quickly cover in the end the whole stack of VMware. Anyway, so let's get started. Now, what do you believe is the first thing or the first asset in IT that sysadmins were responsible to manage? Any guesses? And I think we have mics there, right? Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think all of those are like right answers, but I think my answer is printer. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. So in 97, when I finished my engineering, and so before it was my joining date for a company that I joined, there was some time. I had 3 months. So I thought of using that as an internship role in one small organization in Delhi. So this small organization, they used to take AMC, the annual maintenance contract of various other small units. It could be an LIC branch, it could be an SBI branch, it could be any small office or medium-sized office and so on. And so I was assigned with an engineer who used to go to these offices as part of the the annual maintenance contract to maintain few things. And in every visit, so I used to sit on as a pillion rider on his bike. And if one thing that I learned most in that 2 months was all the roads of New Delhi. But every time I went to any of these offices, only one thing that we could touch was the printer, because that was the most important asset then. I'm talking about 90s. And I think even before, if you will look at it, the first, why did IT came up? I think everyone as a human, we always want information. We want to consume information. And the earliest way possible was if something was written or printed on a paper. So that's why printer, I believe, was one of the most important asset in the history of IT evolution. And that's why printer got the most attention then. And every time I went, it was all calls related to troubleshooting the printer with something or the other, or maybe change the cartridge, or maybe some mechanical fault in the printer. That's how it used to be. But now I think we all know how printer has, and today we have great printers. And how many times you are involved solving printer problems? I guess less than 1%, right? Anyway, I'll go to the next one. Now, people said that, servers, but even before servers, I would say that as a user, the first thing I came across is a desktop. Even in my college or even afterwards, my first job, desktop was the first thing that I encountered with. And I think that is true with every one of you, because even before you get to go in a lab, maybe if you're a sysadmin and allowed to go in a lab, even before that, you are working on the desktop or a laptop today that you get, right? And one of the challenge in my first job was, because I think it was a fashion then, I think it's a fashion today also, everyone then who came out of college, and for some reason or the other, we did not, at least I did not know the reason, I always wanted to have Linux on my desktop. And those days, the company that I started with, when we asked for Linux on the desktop, they said that, okay, fine. I mean, as long as you are going to maintain it yourself, we are not going to support you. Because they used to give, desktop with Windows installed on it. So that was then. When now I look back, I realize that there was a time when SITs admins were restricted to provide support for a certain software up to which, and they were not ready to provide support for the if I'm installing Linux. But I think that changed. So what I really learned there is that there are always these users who will come in the picture in any organization with who you are supporting. They will start using some of the applications or some of the new technologies that you may not be very comfortable with initially, but later on we have to learn, and then we have to get paced with that and get there. And what has happened today is there are laptops, there are mobiles, everyone is bringing them, and there are so many of those. And now it's not a question of any number of this OS or only this OS or only this list of OS. Now with the mobile and tabs in hand, almost anything is coming into the office. And not just that, we also have the virtual desktops which are there, and all of it we need to support. And there are products which are helping you, go with that. So I think here also what I see is what kind of issues most of the time that you're looking at. I think setting it up is always there. Nobody can take away from that from you. But I think again, troubleshooting, I believe at times whenever there is some problem, most of the time I believe all of you are busy with troubleshooting, isn't it? I mean, you agree? So that remains the theme, I believe. I mean, troubleshooting remains the theme. And going further, let's talk a little bit about how we are storing our data. And initially, I think it's a simple hard disk. And I remember the day in my first job, it was probably the 6th month or so. We had a lot of use case. I'm not going to talk about the use case in detail, where we had to do a lot of disk-to-disk copies. I mean, we copied almost all kinds of things. And we had just one machine, and it was not an era where we were we were given the floppy disk also. We were not getting it. So we had, out of the batch of 30, one person had a server where it was possible to add 2 hard disks. So we used to open the motherboard, and then we'll do some all those kinds of things, and then we'll copy stuff, and then everyone will be like in the queue. Hey, I also want to copy whatever people wanted to copy. Okay. Now what has changed is we now have we then have floppy drives, and then we have also seen this these days. This particular device is used to make the pigeons go away, isn't it? I mean, you put it on your terrace, and then that's what the use has been. And we were looking for a USB drive in the morning also, which we did not get. So I think we have moved away from USB drives also. But I think one interesting thing which I read somewhere is, if let's say you pick up a pizza box in 90s or maybe in early 2000 also, and put how many hard disks you could, how much of data would you be able to put in a pizza box? Any guesses? Would it be in MBs? Maybe will go up to 1 GB probably. If you are very lucky, have a very high, expensive hard disk, right? Few GBs probably. Today, if you put the best of the USB that is available in the pizza box, how many USB sticks, drives that you can put? Maybe 50, and you multiply, and they're all in like GBs, and you multiply that with 50. If it's a small pizza box, a big pizza box in US probably will have 100 of USB sticks, right? So that's how it is. I mean, how much data we are able to store, and why? Because data, we want to store information that we want to consume. I think that is what is driving everything that we are doing. Now, look at where people have been running their applications. So initially, we all remember, I mean, we used to buy different kinds of hardware to run our application, right? And there used to be, I think I remember a time when there was a lot of, respect for Unix admins. I mean, still there is. I'm not saying it has gone away. And but there used to be Solaris admins, then AIX admins, and so on. And then the Linux admins. The Linux was then not considered to be a server hardware. Then I mean, later on, people have been using it, and we look at it like how we are going, how we are doing it today. We are running virtual machines. So the server, which used to be very special made for a certain operating system, has gone away. Now almost everything is x86. I'm not saying they are like completely gone away. There are still legacy applications, everything is running. But I think majority what people are using is virtual machines. They're running on x86. I also remember because, so I worked for a startup which was acquired by VMware in 2008. And I was working in that startup for close to 4 to 5 years and so on. And I remember the days when we started to put few of our workloads on virtual machine. We used to use the workstation then. And that's when I also realized that it was a time when sysadmins were not ready to support if you are running something inside virtual machine because it was not proven, it was not tested well, and so on. But I think slowly what I learn is every sysadmin today, or if not every, maybe majority of you, or probably everyone here, you want to be called as a VMware admin, isn't it? So sysadmin is VMware admin, or I should say VMware admin is sysadmin. So that's the new definition of sysadmin today. So that's how it has been changing. And it's not just ending here. This is the icon for containers. If you don't associate with that, no problem, we'll get it changed. So people are now not just stopping at virtual machine. People are ready to go and put their applications running inside a container also. And I believe most of us are struggling with the same phase. How many of you are supporting containers today? Yourself, for the application developers. Maybe few hands. Majority of you needs to learn and then go to the level where containers become the mainstream and it's the IT department that is taking over it, right? But at the same time, even before that happens, we also have the cloud. People are running their application on cloud, isn't it? And a lot to learn. And let's look at the networking now, because someone said networking also, and that's my area, so I cannot really forget about it completely. So back then, I'm talking about 90s in college and then in my first job, networking was all about being able to connect. The use case was simple. We wanted to copy everything that we cared for, right? And maybe to connect to internet also. I mean, that has been the use case since the day one, and that has been the use case. That is the use case even today. Sometimes we are also accessing some applications running on the internet, but otherwise we are looking at things that we want to look at, right? That's the majority of the data is what, as a person in my personal life, I want to look at. But that's what is driving all the innovation. So back then, it was good enough to just have some cables and connect. If we had switch, great. Otherwise, we used crossover cables, right? Do you use it today? There is no need to. You have switches aplenty. And hardware switches, I think we have seen, I mean, Cisco built the whole business and they became the most, I mean, they are still in some sense, I don't want to, make any comment here, but they are still, I would say, the most valuable company in the whole IT stack still. And there is a fight, but still I would say, almost most of the hardware, networking hardware, that's what they are selling. And then it has been era of virtual networking. And I think virtual networking or network virtualization or software-defined networking, whatever you might want to call it, it's all about being able to use the network in such a manner which is as easy as keeping your file. So if it's a lot easy to manage your file on your system, right? Your file is completely in your control. It could be any kind of file. You can delete it, you can modify it, you can archive it, you can have multiple versions of it. And I think the software drive, which is now driving the world, the current disruption which is going on, that's what it is doing, and that's what it has done to the network also. Network today, with the virtual network, it has become logical network, which is nothing but a set of configurations, and which is running as part of a kernel module on hypervisor, for example, or maybe inside a container. So all of it is in the form of software, which is stored as an executable, either in the form of an executable process or in the form of a kernel module sitting somewhere, which can be managed exactly in the same way you are able to manage any file or any object on your computer. That means you are able to easily delete it, create a new one, create different versions of it, and so on. So what that really helps us doing is being able to create a lot of software on the top of it. And then it's a lot easier to manage the network because all the aspects that we typically use to keep our files are also there with the network. So it gives us a lot of flexibility. That's how the evolution is going on. And we look at it further. We also put a lot of security when we initially, when let's say we were connecting only a couple of systems with each other. I think they were very well trusted with each other. There was no need to have any kind of a firewall or any security system in between. But then slowly, our network is becoming bigger. I think I forgot where I read. Probably I heard in one of the sysadmin. There are podcasts. I'm sure a few of you or maybe all of you may be following podcasts, and they are available on multiple channels. And I heard that if you look at a decent sized enterprise data center and the amount of networking they do, there was a time in early 90s, the amount of data which was flowing across the globe, where the data which is flowing inside an enterprise today, in a decentralized enterprise, is much more than that. So it's like the whole world, whatever amount of data which was flowing over the network in early 90s, today we have surpassed it even within, let's say, VMware is a big size company. I think even a company which is much smaller than VMware, whatever data that is flowing inside is much more than what flowed on any network together on Earth in early 90s. And then a little bit about storage. And I mean, I think initially, if it was a very fancy thing to talk about, RAID storage. And that became, I mean, just because someone had a RAID storage, was, oh, I mean, come on, I need to meet this guy and I won't need to learn. That's how it is, right? And then now we have a whole industry being built on storage. And VMware is also not far from it. I mean, we have virtualized storage also. And I'm sure a number of you would be using it as well in your organization, right? Now, all of it today, we started with the printer and then we added all these different systems in between. But all of it needs to be secured as well. So there is everything around it. So for example, with the number of desktops that have increased, people are bringing their own devices in the office and so on, and everything is connected via the Wi-Fi. Physical connectivity is no longer the norm. Everyone is connecting on the Wi-Fi, and security becomes a challenge for all of us. And we are dealing with different kinds of attacks. We are dealing with antiviruses, anti-malware. We are dealing with attacks happening over the network. We are dealing with a lot of ransomwares and so on. Just raise of hands if you have been part of. You don't have to tell anything. Just raise your hands if you have been part of in the last 1 year any breach, or if not breach, some security related incident where you had to really spend your day and nights. Yeah, so I can see a good number of you raising hands there. So it is increasing, and that's why it is very, very important to have that intrinsic security built into the system. So I'll probably request few of you, because you have also been there with the IT industry for quite some time. Whatever you might want to share, I mean, how you think it has evolved for you. Maybe if you can, I think we have mics, and I'll probably encourage people to maybe take a few minutes to talk about it. Yep, you give them the mic. Take the mic, please.
US and Iran war is going on right now, so you know that Windows is affected, latest release 2016, and that virus was discovered and loophole was discovered by NSA hackers. So security is becoming more and more vulnerable day by day. So we have to put more stress on it. And what I understand is VMware App Defense people, we have used it in past, Carbon Black. So it is one of the best product. So I associate with it myself. And what I understand is security is the biggest challenge and concern, whether it's a cyber security, network security, application threats, or in any area, physical security. It is the most crucial part, because as infrastructure grows, you have to secure your endpoint. So it is one of the most important challenge today we see in all the organization.
Thanks. I think very valid comment, and thanks for adding it. Any other wants to add maybe your thoughts or comments on this topic? Okay, I think one more.
I just want to add that, initially when I started my career into like 2009, being a system admin was like you can't even touch the operating system. It's like level 1 support. You just raise tickets and pass it on to another team. They will look into it. But these days, when new joiners join our company, it's been very easy, just because of the virtualization we have, the more level of access we have to the environment, and the ease of it, like the even working on the systems or getting into it has become easier, right? So I see things are improving, and we have more opportunities lying out here that, like you told, like everything is virtualized storage network. So we don't need to actually wait for an opportunity given by the organization, but we can actually go on labs and work on it. So that evolution has happened, and people who are starting their career now, it's more easy for them to actually work in IT industry than it was earlier. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's a great comment. I think yes. So I also remember a lot of restrictions around who gets to use the server where you are running, let's say Windows NT, Windows 95 long back, and later on I was talking about the AIX and Solaris. So there used to be very specific people who had access to those servers and so on. So with that, I think let's move to the next part of this. I think I probably forgot my own slides anyway. So so I think this is what my take is from this slide. You may agree or disagree, but I believe with every aspect of IT, one thing that has been common is the troubleshooting aspect. And whether it is due to security issues, whether it is due to connectivity issues, whether it is due to lack of storage or something being broken or software misbehaving and so on, but troubleshooting has always been the aspect whenever we started. So I think that particular skill of being able to solve the problem, troubleshoot, I think that is never going to go away, and that is always going to be one of the main thing which is required from all of you. But I think we have also seen that with so many assets, we started with printer, and then we discuss about all these different things, like people are bringing their own devices. We have different kinds of storages, and then we have different mechanisms to run the applications, like not just on the server but also on virtual machines, also on containers, also in cloud, and so on. And networking also coming up in such a manner that it is now virtual, logical. You can do everything with it. I think it's not wrong to say that sysadmin today needs to be jack of all trades. That has always been there. But I'll also add and say that you have to be master of more than one. So with that, let me go to the next part of the agenda. And again, thanks to Bas Kayer and Chris Paul. Bas Kayer is our CIO, and I'll call him like a celebrity CIO. Almost everyone, every CIO knows, and almost every sysadmin probably knows him. And then also thanks to Chris Wolf, who is our VP in the office of CTO. And thanks to them, because they have recently released a blog where they spoke about what they believe their top 5, 10, whatever, predictions for the next 5 years or so. And then I have picked up curated list of 8 of those for our discussion here, and what I believe should matter to this community. So one of them is that digital transformation is going to be app driven. So what that really means is everything that we are doing today, I think we are going from browser-based applications to app-based. There has to be an app running on a mobile or on a tab and so on. So I believe, and they believe, that this particular drive will actually come from IT. And within VMware also, I would say a lot of inputs that we get from IT. They are one of our biggest customers within VMware. Okay, and any feedback on this particular thought from anyone in the group? App-driven digital transformation. So okay. So let's go to the next one, and I think this is closer to my heart, that hybrid cloud and multi-cloud is going to be the reality. I think what we have seen is we have, in the last 5 years, 5 years ago, there were a lot of talks about cloud. The cloud will be this, cloud will be that, and so on. And people were looking at it from a distance. I mean, we were standing down and then we were literally looking at the cloud as if it's somewhere on the sky, right? But that is not the reality anymore. Initially, we have seen that teams started to put things on the cloud. Even within VMware, my team and different other teams, we are running a lot of stuff on the cloud, and our IT did not know anything about it. Even today, for some of the things, they don't know about it, but I think slowly that will change. I think that is probably true for every one of us here. What we are also going to see is multi-cloud becoming a reality in this year. So what that means is we'll see maybe few of you, and I'm already hearing a lot of customers already having their footprint on multiple clouds. I came across one particular application where it runs their front end on Azure, and it runs their analytics on Google Cloud, because where they are getting the best of the, they're trying to use the best of the world wherever they are getting it. So I think more of it is going to happen now onwards. The next one is IT will drive the digital DNA, and what it really means is CIOs are they are becoming more and more responsible for revenue generation and for the actual business. So the way we are doing things, the way we are internally being productive, that drive today is more like R&D teams are giving requirements and then IT is implementing. It is going to change. That's what the prediction is all about. IT is going to provide the best practices even before the ask comes, and that's how it has to happen. It's a prediction, and I think all of you need to make it true. I mean, if you believe, that's where IT has to go. And the next one is the digital employee experience. And today, almost all of us, we use our mobile phones or tabs or things like that, and we consume a lot of our personal use cases, things like Facebook, WhatsApp, or so there are apps for everything. But do you have apps for your day-to-day job? Do you have? You have? So few of us have, and few of the apps which are the digital platform of VMware Workspace, it does have few things which are there as app, and you can consume a lot of applications via that. But I think that is going to change in the sense today, most of the better user experience is coming from the apps which are not job related, and job related apps, they are just catching up. The trend is talking about that will change, and there are going to be leaps and bounds in the how the overall employee experience would be, and it will not just end there. Anyone using Workday, or I think in VMware we use Workday or similar apps? I hope so. So I think such apps where HR is mainly responsible for, let's say, what happens with an employee from the day they join and they retire or they leave the company and so on. And IT is now joining hands with HR. They have to make sure that everything is digital. Every process for everyone has to be digital. And then intrinsic security, I think we already heard app defense, and intrinsic security is one of the area which I think if you would go to VMworld and you will hear Pat talking about it, I think that has become one of the main topics these days. Why? The reason is there are so many different security products which are trying to solve very specific problems. And so what has happened today is there are different kinds of problems, and we are, so let's say, we have had this habit where we believe, okay, this is my trust zone and everything is coming via this particular point, I need to put a firewall. So we solve that problem, okay, let's put a firewall there. And then suddenly what we are realizing is there are so many entry points. And now I don't know when my application is running on cloud versus on my internal cloud. So it is, vMotioning or migrating and so on. The firewall through which someone is talking to it is also changing. So I want to be on the top of it. And not just the firewall, we look at different kinds of anti-virus softwares. There are, maybe 50 plus companies who are making that, anti-malware, and ransomware, anti-ransomware, and so on. So today we are living in this reality where there are thousands of security products which are there. And at times when you have all of them installed, it's a fake realization of security, because you don't have much of visibility. As a whole, when you look at the overall security posture, you're not very sure about if I am really securing everything the way I want to or not, because there is no one big picture available anywhere. If it is there, it's there in the Word docs, which are probably 6 months, 9 months old, and that has to change. Visibility and something in the infrastructure itself, which is inbuilt, it has to be there. And VMware products, I spoke about network becoming logical, and through that I'm also saying security also becoming logical. We call security virtualization or software defined security, whichever we call it. But I think the idea is very simple, that we have to bring it in software, and we have to bring it inbuilt, so that whenever let's say applications, you are thinking applications, its networking and security posture has to be its attribute. So once you define it there, you need systems which can take it wherever the application is going. So if it is running today on your on-prem data center, it has to be applied there. If it is running, let's say, in the cloud, then it has to go and apply there also. Then analytics and visibility. I think all of you would agree that there are obviously lots of discussion on AI and ML. Everyone wants to talk about it. And so I think the prediction is about this is going to become reality. In fact, it is already reality with some of the VMware products, and soon I think it will start becoming reality with almost any product that your organization is also working with. And initially, everyone thought that AI and ML may be an area where product which will be like an AI product or an ML product will come out. But I think soon we started to realize, and now I think that realization is quite strong, that every existing product will need to be AI driven, will need to be analytics driven, will need to provide much more visibility than what it is doing today. So that is going to become a reality, and that is becoming reality, as we see. Then 5G, I think all of us are hearing. I think it will arrive in India a little late, not this year, but I'm assuming in US there'll be rollout of the first 5G network sometime mid this year is what my sense is. And there are lots of sub 5G, or you can call it maybe 4.5G networks, which are already there in Europe and Australia, for example. What that really means? What it really means is, from a normal user's perspective, is the speed that I'm going to get on my mobile. So for example, we had this discussion, like, do you have the USB? I think what would happen more is OneDrive or some virtual drive somewhere will become much more faster and much more easier and comfortable way. And it will also save us from some diseases, because we'll not have to pass on the USB stick, which may have germs on it, right? So I think 5G is definitely going to change, and it will change. I think what would really happen is a lot of people will have their handheld devices which will be connected to 5G, and you will have much faster connectivity and bandwidth on those devices than anything on your desktop. So companies will have to think about mobile first. So whenever I'm, let's say, coming up with a new service, how to consume via the mobile, I think that will become the norm. Artificial intelligence we already spoke about. I think AI is going to pass the Turing test. That means it will become either equal to the human intelligence, or probably exceed that also in the next 4 to 5 years. That's what the prediction is all about. Okay, anyone wants to add your prediction, which is not there here?
Much more important, because people are trying to weaponize the AI to use the cyber attacks, what we understand. So AI has a two-edged sword. It's not one side, it's the other side. Sword and the shield. The thing we use to protect it, it can also become a sword. So artificial intelligence will be capable to do launching cyber attacks on its own. And it will soon become a reality, what I understand is.
Yeah, I think it's a valid point. The way we talk about it is within VMware, Pat has a good phrase for it, like tech for good. Every technology generally is neutral. It's the people who are using it can give it a shape, whether it can be good for humanity or bad for humanity. So I think we cannot stop technology evolution just because some technology can be used negatively. I think technology itself cannot drive the world. I think we all understand there has to be the humanity side also. And I believe if the way it has been going on, it depends on all of us, how we are going to use the technology for. If we will drive, let's say, AI or any other technology for the good of humanity, then it will be good for humanity. If not, then it can go anywhere. So I think that responsibility that we have on all of us doesn't really go away. Okay, so I think I have few more slides, but I'm not, as I already mentioned at the start, I'm not going to use a lot of time on it because they're all VMware slides. Have you seen this slide? I hope so. So this is the vision. This slide has not changed much. I mean, it has changed, but it has not changed much. And this is the overall vision of VMware. And if I will remove VMware word there, it can actually become vision for anyone in IT, isn't it? Because it covers everything. And I think what has changed recently is, you can see this particular part where the hybrid clouds has come and the edge computing, because that's where the trend is going to be. Otherwise, everything else remains same as per the vision, but there has been lots of changes in the product which are realizing this vision. And to talk about a little bit, have you heard about the VMware Cloud Foundation? It's a combination of multiple products, and I think one of it, NSX, some of you are going to be part of the HOLs today, and we have HOLs on NSX transformers, which is the latest incarnation of NSX. And then we also have one on VRNI, the vRealize network insight, and that's related to the visibility part of it. We heard, we saw the art, analytics and visibility. So VRNI is in that direction, going in that direction. Then not part of the HOL, but in the last VMworld, we also released NSX intelligence. So some of the intelligence or analytics capability built into the NSX transformers. I'm not sure it will be there in the HOL because I guess this HOL is based on 2.5? 2.4. So okay, so 2.5 is what has the NSX intelligence. But I think learn about NSX and then you can read about NSX intelligence later on. And let me go to the next one, digital workspace. I think what VMware is doing is, I mean, this is the reality today in your organization, right? I mean, we have different users who are using different kinds of OS. That has been the reality, and people keep bringing in. And we have really gone away from the era where it was very easy for sysadmin to say that I will support only Windows and not anything else. I think today you have to support everything. It's like given. You can't really run away from that. But I think the challenges are how you are going to be able to support all of it together. And Workspace ONE brings solution using which you are able to combine management of all these devices together through a single platform. We don't have any workspace sessions today, but I would assume in VMUG previous events or maybe in future we can have one if there is a need. And then this is something which is very recent that we have announced in the VMworld again and in Barcelona again and so on, and lots being built there. So how many of you have vSphere cluster? Everyone? Great, thank you. And how many of you have the Kubernetes cluster? Not yet? Do you think you may have some employees in your organization which may have a Kubernetes cluster you may not know about? Okay, but then there will be a time when you will need to manage it also. And today it is not possible. If let's say someone is not using the Tanzu mission control, it's not possible to manage it from a single pane of glass. With Tanzu, you get a single pane of glass that will give you capability to be able to manage all these clusters, which may be anywhere, which may be running on any kind of technology. So you bring in virtual machines, containers, I mean Kubernetes, or anything running on any the clouds which are mentioned here, and we'll keep on adding if the other clouds become more important. Okay, and I will leave you with this particular quote. So IHS Markit is one of NSBU's, or I should say VMware's key customer, and they have been using NSX for quite some time. They have been using transformers. In fact, I would say they have been one of the early adopters, and they have been working with us, helping us take the product to the next level. And we like to work with customers who are ready to, maybe in their POC environment or in their production environment, wherever they want to use something which is new. And we are always happy to work with different customers to take our product to the next level, which will help you, all of you, better. Okay, so I don't have much to say unless you have questions.